Yo, what up, though? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are going to be talking about modern computers. How is a modern computer set up? And how does it really work? Like, a lot of people are scared of computers because they seem like foreign as fuck, right? But today, I'm about to break it down to y'all to show y'all how a modern computer is honestly just a representation of a human, and that the purpose of coding is to give this modern computer instructions to do the tasks that we as humans would do ourselves. The only thing is the computer does it in a real cool way, in a real efficient way. So we use computers to do those tasks, and we code once again to communicate those tasks to computers. So without further ado, let's hop into the lesson. Um, Today. So what you see right here below is my mental representation of a computer. It may also be actual representation of a computer. But let me zoom in and show you pretty much what I'm talking about. Um, on the computer or on my screen, what I have. Oh, shit, my bad. On my screen, what I have is I have this to the right. I have this is the monitor. This is most people when they open up their laptop, they're thinking that the monitor is the computer, but actually the monitor isn't the computer. The monitor is to the computer as a USB port is to the computer, pretty much, right? A monitor is just another connection that we can put on the computer. It's just happened to be built in, but you can actually unplug that port and just take the monitor off and put another port on and put on a new monitor. Like that's as simple as how monitors work with computers. Like the real big part of the computer is this part right here. This is the part. This is the nitty gritty right here. This this is the nitty gritty part of computers and what really happens when we are talking about um, like writing code and the computer processing things and the computer actually working. This part down there, the internals is pretty much how it works. And so we're going to get into the internals right today. So the first part of the internals that I always got to talk about is is the main part. I'm gonna put myself on the main part right in the middle. This whole bitch is what you would call the motherboard, right? And in a human, we would call this like the nervous system. This is the part that connects all of our parts together. Um, that has the energy flowing through it, that has the blood flowing through it, the whole circulatory nervous system. This is what this is, right? And so that's the what you call the motherboard. Oops, that is what you would call the motherboard. Still too thick. Motherboard. That is the motherboard. And so the motherboard connects all the rest of the pieces of the computer to each other, right? The main part of the computer is the motherboard. And so if you look over to right here to the right, you will see that we have this thing called a battery, right? And so the battery is real dope because the battery is where the computer gets its energy. And so with the human, you don't where do we get our energy? Well, God pretty much gives us our energy. We get our energy from food, we get our energy from sleep, get our energy from meditating, energy from walking. Honestly, we can pick up energy just siphoning energy from the environment. We pick up energy from a lot of different places. Well, computers, they get their energy from the battery, right? You plug the battery into or you plug a charger into the battery, charge up the battery. Now the battery's connected to the motherboard, and the energy is flowing from the battery to the motherboard back to the negative or back to the positive terminal in the battery, and it's just having this continuous flow. That's what the battery is. And so I was telling you about flow. What is this flow? This flow is the energy. Like nothing works without energy. So the battery is honestly providing life to the computer. on some real stuff. Like God gives us our energy, so God provides our life. But in a way, here we create a battery, and then we attach that battery, and in the battery it has negative and positive terminals, meaning that on one side of the battery is positively charged, and on the other side of the battery is negatively charged, right? And so this is how electrons work. This battery is just full of electrons just buzzing around, and what wants to happen is all these electrons are at this negative terminal, and what they want to do is be able to wrap back around to this positive terminal. But in order to wrap back around to the positive terminal, there needs to be some type of circuit, right? And so the circulatory system, you hearing me? Circulatory system that the battery is using to have its energy keep flowing back and forth is the motherboard. The motherboard pretty much is this part right here, this orange part that's going around. That's the motherboard in a sense, pretty much. And so what are we really doing with putting this battery that got this energy that's flowing through, and then it's connected to the motherboard, so now the energy is flowing and it's connected right back. The circuit is complete, right? Well, we can't forget about the main parts. We can't forget about the main parts of the computer, which is the CPU and the RAM and the let me move myself over. So you got the CPU right above. Let me make myself darker. You got the CPU right above. Then you got the what is that? You got the RAM right there, and then you got the hard drive and the SSD like right here. So and then we also got our Wi-Fi card down there. We can't do anything without the Wi-Fi card, so we have our Wi-Fi card right here. Then we also got our USB ports that we can plug things in. And remember, if we plug in a USB drive, that's just like plugging in the monitor right here. Yeah, my thing just went off again. Give me 1 second. These technical difficulties. But yeah, so what you're starting to see is that honestly, the computer, that we looked at the human, and then we went to the computer and we said, oh, we're just gonna make this like this. And that's literally what they did. We have all this energy in us just flowing through us, right? And it's flowing in a circulatory way too. It's going from our feet to our whatever, from our feet to our head, to our head to our feet, and it's just flowing through all our body. And the thing is, we're using our brains to mentally control where we put this energy, right? Because we could put this energy wherever we want to put the energy at. But what we notice as humans is that we just don't want to put the energy in random places. So we use our brain. We use our brain to figure out where do we put our energy at in the most effective and efficient way. Well, guess how the computer does that? The computer does the same thing. It has all this energy flowing through it, and it needs to figure out how to use this energy to do the things that it needs to do. Well, the way that it does its processing is with this central processing unit, right? This thing called the CPU. That's what it's called, the CPU. It is what people will call the brains of the computer. That part right there, that is the brains of the computer, right? This part of the computer is honestly what reads your code, this part of the computer is what reads your code and also executes those different commands that your code wants to happen. That's the CPU. That's what's thinking. That's what's doing. That's our brain. That's us, right? And so now, but the thing is, like, with humans, like, when we think and we do, we usually mix that in with some memories, and those memories you can kind of think of as data, right? The more things we see, the more things we store in our memories. Our memory is literally where we keeping our memories is just honestly a storage, right? It's a storage. That's what I'm saying. It's a storage. And so what type of storage, if we wanted to create this same type of human like structure in a computer, well, where is the storage at in the computer? Well, the storage is here. It's called your hard drive. Your storage is your hard drive, right? Ooh, I came in a little too far. Your storage is your hard drive right here, right? Let me get me on the same level as my hard drive. Right. So our hard drive, and that's connected to the motherboard too. So our hard drive is right here, and it has all of our memories in it. Well, in a computer, this is where you will put all your data, right? All the things that you did to process and the things that you need to store, the programs that you run, the files that you need to store. This is all stored right here in our hard drive. And sometimes it's called an SSD. More times than not, it is called an SSD because it's for fast. Like a SSD is just a faster hard drive. For real, for real. It's a chip. Hard drive was a disk. SSD is a chip that you can just RAID quicker and it's faster than spinning around disk, right? And so we have SSDs to store our data and our programs that we create that we want the computer to be able to run whenever they need to run them. And that's kind of like us. We learn different skills. You can think those skills are like programs. We go through different actions. We learn how to do these different things. Those are programs. And then we store those programs into our hard drive. And then we associate data with those programs. And we also store that data inside of our memory, right? So not only are we storing inside of our memory programs, we're also storing the data for that. And that's exactly what's going on in a hard drive. You look into your hard drive, you can find your code for different programs. And then you can also find just files that just have different data in it. This is what your hard drive is made of, for real, for real. You take the hard drive out of your computer and you plug it into another computer, that data is still there. And now the computer is probably working a little bit differently, but you can still access those different files and whatnot, if formatted correctly. But you can still access those different files and stuff. And remember, this is where we're storing the programs. This is where we're storing data associated to those programs. This, in a way, is our long-term memory. Like this SSD, this hard drive, is representative of our long-term memory. But we also have a short-term memory too, right? And so, what is the purpose of our short-term memory? If we even asking, like, what is the purpose of the short-term memory? Well, it's dope to ask that question because if we look at the RAM right here, 4 GB RAM versus 128 gigabyte SSD. Now, think of short-term memory versus long-term memory. Our long-term memory, we got way more things we can store up in the long-term memory, but in the short-term memory, this is like things that we need like right away. Like, you ever had a word that you really wanted to say and it was just at the tip of your tongue? But you couldn't figure out what it was? Well, what was happening was your brain was going through, your CPU was going to it was going to your long-term memory, right? Your SSD. It was going to the SSD and it was searching through this whole 128 gigabyte SSD. But you not minimum like that. See, God, he set us up dope. We don't got 128 gigabytes. We have like trillions of terabytes. We have like trillions of terabytes of data in our head, while these computers only got like maybe maximum 5 terabytes, 10 terabytes. We have a bunch of terabytes of data and programs that we have stored in our heads and memory and all that shit, right? Subconscious and whatnot. And so what we typically do is we go to that long-term memory whenever we want to pull, like whenever we need to do an action, whenever we want to speak. So we go to that long-term memory and we search for that word. The word's at the tip of our tongue. What is this word? Huh. And then we figure out what the word is, right? We like, I got the word. And now from that moment for about an hour to 2 hours, that word is just snappy. Maybe even a couple of days, that word is snappy because you went to your long-term memory, you brought it to your short-term memory, and your short-term memory is where you can able to just say things real quick. We're really not really thinking about it. Like, you're thinking about it, but you're not really thinking about it. It's happening so quick that you're not really thinking about it. Is when you really go to that SSD and you trying to pull that data out and you're like, what am I thinking? Right? So that's what the RAM, the short-term memory, that's what that's used for. The short-term memory is the RAM. So basically, when a program, let's say I'm playing basketball, if I'm trying to play basketball and I ain't played basketball in a while. Well, I know I'm gonna have to go into my head, figure out some skills real quick, get on the court before everybody else get there, practice a little bit. Get the tell me practicing is my CPU going and grabbing that skill and grabbing that skill. Yeah, I can say I'm about to go play basketball, so it's gonna give me the basic skills of helping me dribble the ball. But then I'm like, I used to cross over, I used to shoot, I used to break them down. You feel me? So as I gotta practice that first, and as I'm practicing that, my CPU is going into my SSD and pulling out all those skills that I used to know, and it's bringing it to my RAM. And now when I'm in game, I don't have to go back to the SSD. I can just pull these skills out real quick. You feel me? And I'm just going. And now over the next couple days, maybe I got those skills. But if I stop using that if I stop playing basketball for so long, well, my short term memory, like, well, we could use this space for another program. You're coding a lot. Why don't we just move this from why don't we move the basketball from the RAM and put that back and put that back in SSD, put that back in the SSD, and all the data that's associated, all the things that you picked up with it. You probably made some friends, you probably made a new crossover or figured out a new crossover. Let's store all that information back in the SSD. And what we want to do now is go into the SSD and load the information on learning how to program and teaching people how to code and all of that, because this is what you're using on a more this is what you need right now. You need this real snappy right now. You don't need the basketball skills. So that's what our brains is doing naturally, right? But we in the computer, we actually are telling the computer literally to do that. Like, we're literally telling the computer, all right, you don't need this information no more. Like, you're done with this activity. You're done with this process. Go ahead and take this process, store the information back, or remove this process from the RAM. Give me all the resources that this process was using, and then store all the data that was associated with this process back to the location that it needs to be stored at, so that the next time I need this activity in this process, I can just go grab it and the data associated with it real quick. That's how our brains and computers literally really work, for real, for real. And so what is doing all of this? Well, the CPU is moving all this information around. It is reading the instructions and then handling those instructions. It says move this information from the SSD to the RAM. So the CPU is going to come, or oops, what will happen is it will say move this information from the SSD to the RAM. So what will happen is this energy will flow from here, and it will read some instruction right here, and then it will take that instruction. It will take the instruction and say, okay, I need to move this information from here to here, and then it says, okay, now I need to start processing that information down. Like, that's okay. So wait, my bad. So it says I need to move this information from here to there, and then guess what it does? It's come back to the battery, boom, loops back around, and then comes back to the CPU, reads the next instruction. The next instruction says, okay, now that it's loaded, start processing stuff. So this is the flow. Like, the flow is go from the battery to the CPU, read some instructions. Okay, got some instructions. All right, most likely go to the long-term memory, grab some data, put it into the short-term memory, come back around, smooth. All right, this says start processing data in the short-term memory. Okay, well, in the short-term memory, I don't even got to go to the long-term memory anymore. I could just go directly to the short-term memory. And let's say the short-term memory has the value 2 in it, and it also has another value 3. And the instruction says, take the data from, let's say this is register 1, and this is register 0 and register 1. Let's say this instruction says take the data from register 0 and register 1 and add them together and put their result in register 2. So we say, all right, well, we're going to come here. We see a 2, we see a 3. And then we add them together and put the result in 5 or in 2. And then we could say, all right, then it loops back around and it says the next instruction, it says, all right, take the data from register 2, right? And put it into the terminal for the display port. Remember, that's the display connection. So put it in the terminal. So take this data and store it over here. So once this data gets over here, this is a 5. Well, the display port and the GPU, the GPU is the graphical processing unit. We have a central processing unit, or the graphical processing unit is for the computer, right? Or for the display port, so we can see things. So we're gonna take this data from the RAM and put it over to the display port, and the display port has already got the information on how to display this stuff. So it's like, oh, you gonna give me a 5, and then bang, guess what we see on the screen? A 5. So someone had to write this program down, and that's pretty much what computer science is really doing. Like that's what the computers are doing. And then when you get more into it, dang, it keep disconnecting. But when you get more into it, you'll see that oh, you don't see that the 5 is showing. So yeah, I really do gotta show you. When you get more into it, dang man, it be disconnecting. I hate how it disconnects. Street connector, street coder. I gotta get some better Wi-Fi. Okay, but what you'll see is that as the computers get more complicated and whatnot, um, they get more into what they're doing. And so, no, it's not showed up. It didn't show up. Oh, this is supposed to show up. There it is. Okay. As the computer gets more complicated, you see that it can start using more of the different attributes inside of his body, right? More of the physical hardware inside of his body. Now, like at first, computers didn't really need to use a Wi-Fi card. Like, why in the world would you need a Wi-Fi card if you're not really communicating with other computers, right? But then, as computers started getting more and more sophisticated, they was like, oh, let's add a Wi-Fi card, and now these computers can be connected to all other computers without even being physically connected, right? Well, humans, we also have a Wi-Fi card in our body, and we actually can send messages without speaking. And we actually do that all the time. It's called sympathy, empathy, or it's called empathy and all that other shit. But most people are not gonna realize that. And we can do telepathy too, or yeah, we can do telepathy too. Just how computers are sending messages back and forth and picking them up and understanding them without verbally making noises, we can do the same thing as well. And so they're using Wi-Fi cards, and then so basically this Wi-Fi card is connected to the network and has its own little information, has its own little processing unit, and it will notify the CPU, hey CPU, next time you come around, or next time you do your next time you do your circuit like that, next time you run that circuit, well, what I need you to do is come check me out, cause I got some data down here. So I need you to take this data that I have and store it in register 3 for me, so that I can come back to that data later. So we can use that data later. Maybe they need that data for something else. So the Wi-Fi card is also interacting. So the CPU is like, it's going all over the place. It's like, but the thing is, it just keeps coming, like different instructions. It keep going, instruction, and then it comes back to the CPU. The thing is, it's not really the CPU. It's the energy that's doing it. The CPU is just controlling the flow of that energy. Remember, I was just explaining control flow, right? And control flow is just we're controlling the flow of energy. We have energy in us. We're controlling that with our brains. Honestly, we are energy, and we use our brains to control the energy that we encompass, right? And so computers, they're naturally just energy as well, inside of a solid case. And we're using the CPU right here to control that flow of energy. You have understood computer science, right? This is computer science. This is computer science. This is computer biology. This is computer anatomy. This is breaking down computers so that you can understand what a computer is. Why write code if you don't understand a computer? You wouldn't want a doctor fixing your, let's say, eye, giving you an eye transplant or something if the doctor didn't go through whole medical school and understood the human body. So why are we computer scientists trying to create code and write things that fix computers if we don't even understand what the computer is? You feel me? So what I like to do in my courses is I break down the computer, something like this. Like, this is what a computer is, and you can put in your USB ports right here, and the USB ports, or you put your USB ports in right there, and the USB ports will help you connect different external things to the world. And so you can kind of think of to your body. You kind of think of a USB port is when, let's say, you have a transplant of something, or a prosthetic arm or something. Like, you're just taking an arm off and you put an arm on. That's like USB port in a way. Like our whole bodies are, we have USB ports all over our body for real, for real. Or somebody puts in an earpiece, that's even better one. Like if I put in one of my AirPods, that's kind of like a USB port because now I have speakers in my ear connected to my body. And so what I could do with this USB port, let's see if it was, I could connect some speakers to it, right? And then now I can hear speakers. That's is like the music. I can hear music coming out. It's real dope, honestly. And so I guess the better one was a microphone maybe to do the same thing. But yeah, it's like I could connect a microphone to my ear and then you can hear my voice all over the place. Okay, cool. So that is computers for real, for real. Like on a real like you that's some code on a real like that's my JavaScript stuff. On a real, you kind of you like you made it to the end. If you really understood what was happening there, man, like on some real, keep tapping in with me because this is computers, this is computer science, this is human science, this is thinking. This is thinking, which most people don't do. Learn how to think. Remember, computer science, it's solving puzzles. Yes, it's solving puzzles. It's helping us create applications. Yes, it's doing all of that. But at the end of the day, Steve Jobs would like to say that that coding um, teaches you how to think. But what I like to say is coding shows you how we think. It doesn't teach you how to think. It shows you how we think. And through showing you how we think, you can start teaching yourself to think better, program yourself better. Because what we're all just programs for real, for real. Remember, that's how I just broke it down. An action is just a program. We store that in our brain. We associate data, memories, things that we see, things that we feel with that program. And now, whenever we run that program, those actions, that data, those feelings, they come up, right? It's the same thing with the computer. Computer sees program, or we write the program in the code. They store the program, and when the program is ran and it has the data crunched and whatnot, we store that data within the program, and then we store that program back into our hard drive. It's the same thing. We're programs. Most people don't want to believe it. And you can go inside your body and you can start putting different programs inside yourself and make yourself a whole dope ass human being. Let's tap in, man. Tap in with my channel. Mess with me. I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.